Welcome to your next step up the self-publishing mountain.
I'm Matilda Swift, author of quintessentially British cozy mysteries.
And I'm Samantha Cummings, author of young adult books about magic, myths and monsters.
I've written the books,
Changed their covers,
tweaked their blurbs,
tried tools from a dozen ads courses.
and I'm still not seeing success.
Now, we're working together to plot and plan our way from barely making ends meet to pulling in a living wage.
Join us on our journey where we'll be mastering the pen to snag that paycheck. Hello and welcome to Pen to Paycheck Authors Podcast. I'm Matilda Swift, here with my co-host Sam Cummings, and we're here to write our way to financial success. We're two indie authors with over a dozen books between us, and still a long way to go towards the quit the day job dream. If that sounds familiar, listen along for our Mastery Through Missteps journey. Each week we cover a topic to help along the way, and this week's topic is going to be money. But before that, let's do our wins and whinges of the week. Sam, what are yours?
I will start with my whinge because why not? Just to throw it out there. I really wanted to do loads of editing this week, but I really overestimated how much time/energy I'd have. So that's something that I need to really remember. I'm not Superwoman. I can't just do things for hours on end and not get tired.
Mm-hmm.
And my win of the week is that I posted on socials this week and effectively begged, but just said to people, I'd love a sale in January. Someone buy my book, and I got some sales through. So it just goes to show, if you don't ask, you don't get. So that's my win of the week.
Fantastic.
Yes, very
That
exciting.
is really good.
How about you?
Yeah.
What are your wins?
I feel like I feel like my whinge I'm going to really gloss over, because my whinges, I'm trying to be really gentle on myself right now. I mentioned last week that a friend of mine has recently passed away. Also, I'm really deep into the self-discovery, mindset things. So I feel like I am doing so much that is, making me full of emotions and making me question things that I had assumed about myself, that I am just trying to be really gentle with myself. So I'm going to say whinges this week are that I didn't get any writing done, but also I wasn't necessarily pushing to do any writing either. So that is fine. And then my wins, I have got two wins this week. And one is related to last week's, that I posted on Facebook, put it on my page, put a nice post on. Yeah. And it felt super easy, very positive to build some engagement, and really felt like, and I have been re-listening to our podcast to remind myself what we talked about. It really feels like I now have a strategy for Facebook, which just makes me feel like a real weight has been lifted off, rather than just the enormity of, I can't figure out where the right page is, I can't figure out what to do. I've now got ideas of what to do. So that feels really good. And then my other win is that I did. So you and I are both doing the Orna Ross creative planning, or Go Creative planning process. There was a meeting on Thursday for everyone in the program that was kind of the first month of the year review. And I spent some time looking through the planning notes. And I also, after the session, there was kind of a thing to do where you had to really think about how to change, or lean into a change in your attitude to money. And we'll talk a bit more about that later. But one thing that really surprised me that came out of it was that I have a part of my house that I just use as a dumping ground every day. And I pass it all the time. It's halfway up the stairs, and it's just a place where, it's very dusty. I have a lot of work done around that area, so it often gets covered in plaster dust. And I always think, I won't bother tidying up because it's going to get dusty again. And I don't do anything with it. And I don't need an extra tiny fraction of space when I have a large house for one person. So I just kept ignoring it. And then as part of this planning workshop, I was thinking, well, we were supposed to be thinking about a way to change your mindset around money. And mine was that I wanted to live more abundantly. So use the nice things that I have, wear the nice clothes, eat the nice food. And in my head that transferred to have the nice house. So that evening I pulled everything out, cleaned it, painted it. I have put up some nice fairy lights. I've put down a little fur rug that I've got from another part of my house. It is pink. It's got a little bag hung up in there labelled snacks. It's got lots of music. I'm putting up a new bookshelf in there. I've ordered a LED fake neon sign to go behind my head, to to light it up. So it is the coziest, loveliest little nook ever that feels, it's like the smallest part of my house, but it is my new favorite part of my house just to curl up and read in. It is it's slightly hard to get into. You have to like jump up from the stairs. It only fits people of like my height and smaller, so like you have to be 5'4" or under to get in there. And it just feels like I'm really tucked away, and it's a little bit inconvenient to get out of. So it feels like you just want to stay there and snuggle up all day. So it is fantastic. It is exactly what I need right now, and I'm so glad that I did it. And it does tie into what we're going to talk about in a little bit. So I'm going to say extra wins this week. I feel like a real winner.
Amazing. And if we don't hear from you for like several days, it's probably good. Like we'll go and find you in the nook. You'll not be able to get out. So if anybody says like,
I'm
has
a
anyone heard
nook
from
person.
Matilda?
Yeah, I live in the nook.
I'm sorry, she's now living in the nook.
Yeah.
No, it's amazing. And unfortunately for people listening and watching this video, Matilda actually sent me a text with the picture of the nook, and it is as cute as it sounds. I'm very jealous.
I will be putting it on Facebook. So if anybody would like to join my Facebook page, you can go on Matilda Swift. That is another way I'm going to be building my Facebook page. It'll be on my Instagram as well because it is so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, that's very cute. So I should talk about money. How did you get on with this week's topic to get honest about your money and your mindset?
So I feel like I haven't got as far as I wanted to, but I sort of, I could have, it would have felt artificial to get, I think get further than I really am. So I feel like I'm at the right space where I am right now, and where I am at the moment is part of the Go Creative program is very much about treat your money professionally, and make different accounts for different things. So make an account for salary, make an account for profit, make an account for tax, and then have a separate account for ingoing and outgoing expenses. So I did that, and I felt that felt really good and very easy, and something that I've been putting off for ages because it felt like it was going to be an absolute pain. So I've done that. I haven't decided on the percentages for each pot, and one of the things that we were talking about on Thursday in this Orna Ross Go Creative workshop that we did was about having twice monthly check-ins and movements of the money pots. And the first one of those should be on the 5th of the month, so the 5th of February. So I am planning to get things ready. That is a deadline I'm going to meet. I'm trying to get things ready for the 5th, but I will have my kind of spreadsheets ready. I will have my percentages ready to move things in. So whatever comes in at the end of January, I will apportion into those pots. So that feels really good to kind of have that in place. And I could have decided this week like what I'm going to do, how I'm going to divide things up, but I think I want to have a real sit down and think about money, and I'm going to do that tomorrow evening, a little bit, and then some over the weekend. Because one thing I really want to do is, we talked a little bit about this a few weeks ago, is give myself a business loan rather than just treat my savings as like resources I can use as and when I decide based on my mood at the time. So
yes,
I'm undecided at the moment about whether I want to make it a specific loan for the amount of money that I think I'm going to spend this year. And the reason why I'm not quite decided is because actually this year mostly I'm going to spend writing rather than releasing. So I actually won't have very many expenses. I will have advertising expenses because I'm going to try and advertise my previous series. So I don't know. And I think I need to do a lot of thinking in a realistic sense about how much I'm actually going to get written and published this year, which, because I'm still on this sort of mindset and thinking stage, and this really like broad view strategy, which encompasses absolutely everything, including like going to therapy and looking at, my childhood. So now that's where we're at now. It's just like every week is a little bit deeper, a little bit further away from writing, but hopefully as well relevant. So because of that, I think I've not yet got to the stage where I'm really being realistic about my writing this year, which is really unusual for me. Like in the past few years, I have worked very hard post the kind of peak of the pandemic to get back into a very regular writing rhythm. But that's all I've done is like get back into that and get back into a stage where I felt like I could do 3 to 4 books a year confidently. And now it's sort of as like I've thrown that up in the air, but I think with intention. But it does mean that I don't know how many books I'm going to get out this year realistically. I might in my head say, yeah, 3 to 4. It's not true. I think it'll be 1, maybe 2, which is concerning, or I don't know. It's just different.
don't think
It's different
I
and it's
don't think
part of a
it's
different journey.
concerning. Yeah, exactly. I think
Mm-hmm.
last year you didn't know that you would be taking this journey, and so now it's difficult to reframe and reassess when you've always had, like, if you have one of those mindsets where you're like, I've made a decision, I'm going to do it. That's definitely the sort of person I am. And then to be like, actually, maybe I'm not. I know that's like one of the most difficult things. Like, I'm so flexible with other things in my life apart from once I've made a decision.
Yeah. I think also because it's the common path in self-publishing is like just
Yeah.
write more books. So it
Mhm.
feels like that metaphor of like turning around an oil tanker. That's how it feels to like stop the writing hamster wheel. Because to an extent, I have a slight concern that like I'll never be able to get back on it. And like, what if I've forgotten how to write? What if I can't write
Said every
quickly?
writer ever.
I know. I mean, I think that with every book anyway, so it's absolutely
Yeah.
fine. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with my money. I've got more I'll talk about. Kind of, we want to talk as well about our mindset to do with money, so we'll talk about that separately. But yeah, in terms of my actual physical like money things, that's kind of where I'm at right now. We can maybe also do with talking about how we've thought about money in the past, but we might come to that after we've had your initial thoughts on like where you're at the moment with money.
Yeah, so I have finally set up a business account. I'm just waiting for it to be like approved. Because I've never set up a business account. All of my banking that I've ever done, like you say, is like just pulling from my savings on a whim. I've never just been like, I've never sat down and thought, okay, I'm gonna allot this money to publishing. It's always been like, oh, like this is how much my format is going to cost. Just take that out of my normal like current account. This is how much a cover artist is going to cost, and it's never been a structured thing. It's always just been, I can afford that, no problem. Unfortunately, I can no longer afford to think like that because cost of living has really like cut me off from, like, I haven't got any savings really because I did go to Australia and it cost me a lot of money and that took all of my savings, but I'm just not getting money into my savings pot because all of my bills have basically doubled. So that's something that I think I haven't thought about money properly up until like Orna started the course, and then it was like, oh yeah, I really need to, because I was just burying my head in the sand because all the savings that I used to have are now gone and all of my money is going towards paying the bills. So that's like a huge thing that I've got to try and figure out. And I have been thinking about money and like setting up this business account and trying to figure out like how much my incomings are, how much my outgoings are, and where I can redirect some funds. Because obviously everyone's got spends that, I think I said this last week, buying a cup of coffee. I could put the £5 I spend a week on getting a coffee somewhere into a publishing pot. So it's just all these, like, I've had all these big thoughts and I've done these small actions, but I know that it's going to be a continuous thing. So I've started the race, but I know it's going to take a long time to actually feel like I've streamlined a process and I feel happy with it. So, because I mean, we'll come in. This all kind of links into the mindset part of things and like how, like, what my relationship with money is like in general. Because I think it's really interesting. I've never sat down and like thought about why I think about money the way that I do, and doing the course with Orna and sitting down and writing down, like, she really is really into free writing, so like doing free writing around money and feelings around money has kind of opened my eyes and been like, oh, did not think about any of this. This makes sense.
And also, like, why would you? Because I think it's such a foundational thing that you form a relationship with money before you even have enough of a sense of self. Like your parents are around you making choices about, do we buy branded products or do we buy supermarket own brand food? That's what you expect to see in the house. What, how comfortable do you feel asking for things versus like, is it very clear in your house that you should not ask? Even just like, what's the moral judgment around money? Like that sort of stuff you receive before you're even really old enough to think, in a logical sense.
The weird thing is I've always been weird about money, even though when I was a kid, my dad would always say, like, we'd go to a toy shop and he'd say, yeah, like this. We weren't rich, like particularly rich growing up or anything. We were just very middle class. But my dad would say, "Go and pick something in the toy shop, anything you want," and I would
Yeah,
say,
I would not be able to do that.
I don't need anything." Like that's been
Hmm.
my as and like it's been a thing as I've grown up. No one knows where I got this from. I
Hmm.
don't need anything. That's always been my, and so I really don't know where I get that from. I think it's like a past life thing, honestly. It's so weird. All of my siblings are just like, what? Like, as they like go to, this is like at the time of like Sylvanian families and stuff. So like my
Oh,
sister would be
love a
like
Sylvanian
arms
family.
full, me too, arms full of Sylvanian families. Like, you're missing out. It's like I've got one Sylvanian family. I don't need it anymore. So don't know where mine came from at all. I really do
Yeah,
think it's
that
a
is
past
so
life thing.
interesting.
Yeah,
Okay, so
very
yeah,
bizarre.
that's even harder to figure out. Is
I
like,
know. Yeah.
if it's from before you were born, how are you
I
going to
know.
affect that?
Yeah, I really need to do some past life regression and see what was going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. So next then, do we want to go into kind of mindset things, or do we want to look at
Yes.
where we're at so far with our journey with money in terms of
Um,
self-publishing?
I think let's talk about where we are in terms of self-publishing right now. So,
Mhm.
like how much we are comfortable spending, like in what terms, like how do you want to broach it?
Yeah. So I think that's a good way to think about it. Is like, how do we think about spending money in self-publishing? So
Mm-hmm.
I first started self-publishing when I was living in Hong Kong, in fact, and the taxes are very low there. I felt like I had a good amount of disposable income, but not infinite amounts of money, and kind of connected to the mindset stuff we'll talk about. Obviously, I never felt like I could spend money that felt wasted.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent money. I had an editor, I had a cover designer from the beginning, but I would definitely choose those based around what felt like a comfortable amount of money for me to spend without getting it back. Um, and I think my current level of spending on my books is that I have a cover designer, I have an editor. I pay for all sorts of other bits and pieces that I kind of don't factor in, but I would say the profits that I make from my books have covered the editing and design, but they don't cover the other things like, website hosting, the newsletter service, the book delivery for Book Funnel. And there's so many ancillary costs that, and I think having to do taxes sort of makes you confront that, where you haven't really made business choices. You have just thought, yeah, I need that, so I will have that. And I think that's very, very common in self-publishing. There are so many products and things that you could have. Things like Scrivener that everyone's like, it makes it much easier to organize. People, and there's also like Atticus. People use other things for like formatting their books, or they pay a formatter, and without that becomes like common usage, so you can't really question it. And I use Draft to Digital, like free formatting. I think it works well. It does a good job, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to spend money on that. But there's other places where I think there's not maybe enough conversation about how much you should spend on certain things. Like, how much should an editor cost? How much should a designer cost? It seems to vary very, like, incredibly wildly.
Yes.
So I've just spent what feels comfortable for me and for the quality that I think is good, which I think is not really. It's not a professional decision. It's not based on what I think my books are worth. It's based on a comfort around money.
Yes, I think that's like a crazy thing to think. Really, is I guess it's all to do with like self-publishing. Never, well, personally coming from me, never felt like I was starting a business. Even though, like
Mm.
now, I'm seeing that that's completely how I should have approached this. And we've both like this is the whole point of these podcasts, and like the whole point of our mastermind meetings that we do, um, is like finally getting to this point so far into our careers that we realized actually we should have been doing this as a business the whole time. So if you were running a business, you would put some money into an account, or you'd have a business plan, and you'd say, hey, I'm going to publish this book. I'm going to write down every single cost I think I'm going to need for this book. I'm going to save my money for it, and then I'm going to, like, it would have made so
I'm
much more
actually laughing.
sense to
Like, I
do
cannot.
that.
Obviously that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, just the idea of like, why don't I have a business plan?
Yes.
I run a business for my day job, and
Yeah.
have put together like business plans, expenses, budgets. That's my job. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
director of operations for my day job. That's my whole job, and I have never even considered having a business plan for my books.
Isn't it like the most ridiculous thing? So, like, I think that what I love really at the moment is like, obviously, on social media, I follow a lot of indie authors. I get a lot of content for indie authors, and I love seeing people coming into it now having such a better understanding of the business and like talking about how much money they're saving up in order to publish. And like a few months ago, I remember seeing somebody say, "Oh, I've got like a pot of, I want to say like £5,000, which I'm going to use to publish my book," and I from savings, and I thought, you can publish a book for basically for free, but
Mm-hmm.
that was just me being my like glib self of being like, you don't need to spend money to publish a book, but you do need to
But then
spend
there
money
is a
to
big
publish a
attitude of
book.
like bootstrapping, right? That's like a sort of badge of honor, that you've bootstrapped your way, which I feel like really comes out of, the 2016 model of like you're trying to race to get the gold rush money, and that isn't where we're at
Mm-hmm.
now.
No, that's when I started. So that was when self-publishing um wasn't a viable way to make money. What it was for some people, but it was still very much a um kind of like a vanity project for, like, that's how it seemed for a lot of people. And that's kind of how I looked at it for a long time, is that I looked at it as though it wasn't a legitimate business. It was just me because I was sick of waiting for agents to reply to my emails. And now the conversation around self-publishing has completely changed. So like, I'm glad that it has, but I really wish that I'd like not started self-publishing back then. And I'd done it now with like this mindset of, I just feel like I just feel like I wish I'd had like a fresh start, which is what I'm
But
trying to do now.
yeah, I was going to say you were kind of a fresh start. So I
Yeah.
went to the SPS Live conference last year and the year before, but the one from the year before, so from 2022, Rachel McLean was talking there, and she had just won the Kindle Storyteller Award. I can't remember whether it was the year before that year, but she had just won that, and she had really only been publishing crime for a very short period of time. But she had started publishing, she'd been doing it for 5 years, and she had published all sorts of absolutely weird books. I think she would like agree to that. She showed us her sales graph. She has written a book, which I absolutely can't remember the title of now, which is something like How to Write a Bestseller, where she wrote what she wanted for several years and was like, why isn't this working? And then she was very, very business minded about it and wrote a crime series that was to market, that she loved writing, that was set in an area that she knew really well and loved. And she knew enough about digital, kind of lots of different aspects of digital, not quite marketing, but like different digital products, to be able to market it well. And she used Facebook ads before she even released her first book. Like, she really had a plan and stuck to it and invested in herself and believed, and has succeeded astronomically. So yeah, definitely, if you can go to a talk or anything by Rachel McLean, watch anything by her, read her books, and yeah, she's got a business book, which I will find the name and put in the show notes, but it is something like How to Write a Bestseller.
Yeah, I think that starting to think of it as an actual business and trying to think to myself, how much money do I need to put in a pot that will cover, like, just cover expenses for publishing, not even thinking about all the extra stuff, just as like a launching pad, because it's all an experiment at this point. Like, how much money am I willing to experiment with is probably the thing that I need to think about, is how much am I willing to, I don't even think it's how much money am I willing to lose, it's how much money am I willing to gamble with. I mean, I
Yeah,
play the
that is how I
lottery
feel
every
about the
now and
Facebook
again.
ads.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Because I think with Facebook ads, I don't want to feel like I'm losing money. But I'm happy if I don't make money, as long as I'm learning something from it.
yes. Well, that's it. This is the thing about spending and getting something of value in return, not necessarily monetary, that's the word, monetary value, but just a value of some kind. Like what are you valuing? What if you're valuing the experience? Amazing. There's just probably like so many ways to frame success when it comes to spending money. But obviously, we want more money in the account than we're spending.
Yeah, but I think thinking about then how we're going to frame money in our interactions with it, I think then if we have a look at mindset things, which is how I started my never-ending, it seems, spiral deeper and deeper into my psyche and attitude to kind of everything and like self-worth, and that started with money and the idea of abundance. And I think I'm interested to. I would be interested to hear like different cultural perspectives, because I think we're both bringing a very English perspective on this,
Yes.
on money, and not wanting to, stand proud and say, I worked hard for this and I deserved it, right? Like like we should be saying when we're receiving success. But yes, I think it feels uncomfortable, the idea of saying, I have written something that I think will make money. That doesn't feel natural. So yeah, that's how I started on my kind of mindset work. I wanted to get a better attitude towards money, and I found some great resources, so I can chat about those, and kind of go through what was helpful. I just wondered if first you had any thoughts of your own that you want to share about money mindset.
No, not really. I mean, I think that when I was delving into some money mindset stuff yesterday, I really feel, and this is probably, some people will roll their eyes at this, I really feel like money mindset and like being proud of the money that you earn, and feeling like you deserve the money reward is very much it's based in a patriarchal society where men are open to talk about how much money they make and be proud of it, but women have never been allowed to talk about how much money they're making, how much things cost. I think for women, spending money has a frivolous thing, like bubble around it, and women have always been made to feel guilty about how much money they spend and how much money they make. And I didn't know that's how I viewed money in society, but it is. And some people might be like,
yeah, and there's always that thing when you have like a new
things about that.
I mean, it sort of feels like a lot of things out there. I think it's interesting when you have like a new outfit and someone compliments you and you're like, oh, it was in sale, 70 bajillion percent off. It was like, it cost me nothing. There was almost, that's the achievement, is not having spent money.
Oh, I know. I get most of my clothes secondhand, so it's always like it was just in a charity shop.
Yeah, but it's an achievement. But then I think it would feel unusual to have a woman be like, yeah, I bought this last week, cost £1,000. Like, oh gosh. Whereas I wouldn't find it as odd if a man was talking about his watch that way. I would not consider it to have the same sort of self-indulgence.
No.
I mean, it is self-indulgent, but like nothing wrong with that. You can indulge yourself. Great.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So I was just making a list of books that I kind of read when I was starting out thinking about this money mindset. Some I'm looking back through my phone, I think, because I ended up coming around to other issues. I've got a couple of books that I haven't read, but I have read the sample and then bought them, so I clearly like them enough to want to read them. And then some of them that I have read, a lot of these books, they have a lot of exercises in them, so I have read them and kind of done a couple of the exercises, but I really want to go back all the way through them, which just takes much time. And now I'm like a million miles down this like self-discovery journey. I feel like I'm leaving the money stuff behind in a way that I don't want to. So it's very useful to have this today to come back to. And I am going to go back to these books. So I think the most relevant book for authors is called Right to Riches. And if you see the cover, it has the word right with a W crossed out and then written with an R at the beginning as well. Like, you have a right to these riches and you can write your way to being rich. It's by Renee Rose, who also has an Author Abundance Central Facebook group. which as soon as you look at it, I'm sure you will find many of your self-publishing friends are members already. That is what I experienced. I think I checked today and there are maybe 10 people that I'm already Facebook friends with who are in the group. So it is very publishing focused. The book is very general in terms of mindset on money, but all the examples are very book related. So it is a great read. Yeah, and a nice read. My actual favorite book about money, because I like a bit of attitude. My favorite book that I read was We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rodgers, which it made me feel really good about wanting to have money. She has a really great perspective on it, and she's very much like, there's no wrong reason to want money, but a great reason to want money is so that you can help your community, and like you get to have the money to decide what you do with it. It's not shameful to want to have enough money to pay for your family, pay for the kids to go to university, to make everyone feel financially comfortable, but also to buy yourself that nice coat you want. Like, she's really got a great attitude and a way of expressing it that makes it feel very achievable. So I want to go back and reread that one. She also has a podcast called Hello Seven. And because she's not from a self-publishing focused background, the Hello Seven podcast is quite broad and it's very much general business. And she is a general business person. So I would say I found the podcast less relatable. The topics are often not close enough to what I'm interested in, but the book I absolutely loved. Then 2 other books that I have downloaded, and I read the samples and bought the book, so I must have liked them and must go back and read them, was H.L. Savino, who I think is also connected to Renee Rose in some way. So H.L. Savino, Your Journey to Abundance. Maybe it was mentioned in Right to Riches. But again, I've bought the book but need to read it. And then Nina Harrington, who I think is a cozy author, or definitely an author that I know of, Become a Fearless Writer, which is also about attitude to money. And then just a general recommendation for a podcast that I'm sure most people have listened to, Six Figure Authors, which is a great podcast, relatively upfront about money and where people are going and how they're being impacted by money and changes in income. So yeah, all those are ones that they just take time. They take time to go through, but they have all had a positive impact on my attitude to money and my mindset around money. But it's still not where I want it to be. I still want to feel like my books are a business asset, and I want to make a business plan now. I have realized that I should make a business plan. I will make a business plan and figure out how to make money from my books.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful to share those books, because I am somebody who's never really read mindset books ever. I just plow through fiction books like there's no tomorrow. But after reading the book, which name is now escaping me, Big Magic.
Oh yeah, the Elizabeth Gilbert book. Yeah,
thank you. The words are just gone. I completely see the relevance for those books, because it really evokes such emotion when you're reading them. And I think that's something that I've never experienced, because I've only read fiction books. Obviously fiction books make you feel a particular way, but it's all false, it's just all imaginings and stuff, and pretending that you're this character. But when you're reading those books, you're not pretending you're a character. You're thinking about yourself and the way that you could live your life, and these other people have been where you've been and have made these changes. And I just think it's I just can't wait to get some of those books that you mentioned. I've had them on my list for a while, and probably over the next couple of weeks I'm going to grab some of them and start reading them, because I would just say as well, I think
the benefit of being a fiction reader, being a good fiction reader, you can lose yourself in a story, means that these non-fiction books that are tapping into topics you are wanting to make changes in, means that those books are more effective for you. I think a lot of people don't find books an effective way to learn and change their mindset, and I really do, because I think I'm very good at getting my mind connected to what I'm reading.
Yes,
so definitely, even just only read these books and don't do the exercises, I feel my thoughts changing.
Yes, I think that I love talking about this with my boyfriend, about how what you read really shapes your world, your inner world and your outer world. So, which is why, as much as some people might not like this, I don't read the news, because
not a huge fan.
Because I have this thing where we've grown up. This is going to go off a tangent, so I'll try not to go too far off. We grow up in a world where your you're supposed to believe the things that you read. And when you're at school, you learn from books. So your brain knows what you read is true. It creates like the world and everything around you. And as soon as you start reading like bad news, you start reading all these things and you believe that everything is true that you're reading. And I think it can be really detrimental. So I just want to read nice things and convince myself that everything's fine. So
I mean, I think
I
there's a
really
big
do.
merit to that, I think, to limiting your news intake. 'Cause, like, during the pandemic, and I lived in Hong Kong during the protests, you read news constantly, and it's tiny, tiny incremental updates that just fill your mind up. And I think it is such a hard balance between, like, I want to be globally aware, I want to be a good global citizen and be knowledgeable and have changes where needed, but also it doesn't mean no benefit to know about an earthquake in a country that I have never been to, will never go to, cannot have any impact on. And
Exactly.
now I just feel bad.
Yes, I want to be a good person in my community, which means being a positive person who doesn't hate the world. So I just want to be like a nice person who is happy and can recommend books to people, and that's my entire life. So
I mean, I would also say, like, I think that's a big part of We Shall Be Millionaires. So I would say, read the
yes,
Rachel Rodgers book first. She's very
cannot wait.
focused on like, make money to change the world around you, the world you can impact.
Yes,
and
which is me down to a T. Like that's my biggest dream is to be able to make money and feel like I'm impacting everyone around me in a good way. Which is I can't wait to read that book.
Yeah, we should all be millionaires, and we will get there.
Agreed.
Soon and together.
Yeah.
So that will be fantastic.
Yes.
So that sort of takes on to next week's topic. So we've decided to have a sort of mini series on the topic that we are calling branding and being, which is about really focusing on. So we started this like by thought of niching down and like, or niching down, depending on how you pronounce it. That's how we very first started these mastermind meetings, but it turned into a much broader kind of interconnected web of everything in our business. So we're going to just have a few weeks looking at branding and being, which we're kind of categorizing as, let's look at the place that we are in our business and where we belong in our genre and subgenre and how we're putting ourselves there. So starting with quite a broad topic next week that will impact our discussions for weeks to come. So the one we talk about next week is resources and platforms, which is a really kind of broad topic that doesn't seem related to the idea of branding, but it will come in a lot when we talk about things in future. So Sam, just to start with, do you have any thoughts already on platforms and resources?
Yes. Well, I think that, like you say, depending on your genre and your niche, however you want to say it, there are definitely different platforms that benefit you more. And just like in general, talking about, if we're going to talk about platforms like social media, me being a young adult fantasy writer may have completely different experiences and outcomes on particular social media platforms than you writing cozy mysteries. So just in terms of that, I'm really excited to think about where are the best places that I should be, who are the people that I should be trying to find there, and like what resources will help me make those places like lucrative. That's how my brain's thinking about it. That might change. How about you?
Yeah, and I think we've got such a good combination of genres that, like, right at the opposite end of the age spectrum traditionally, but both audiences kind of meet in the middle. Yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to this because when I started self-publishing, I came from kind of a different perspective from you. I had a very close friend who was a full-time author who shared with me all her ideas and like knowledge on resources, and she was able to, say, get on BookFunnel. Here's a newsletter provider that is, you want to get started on. Here's how to get your website set up. So I had a real leg up in that and didn't have to make as many decisions, or at least knew kind of a couple of things to decide between. And as I said, like in the last few years, I've been focusing on kind of get back into a regular publishing rhythm post pandemic crisis. So I really want to maybe take a bit of time to reevaluate things and to look at things that I never tried. So I have had a friend recently who's used NetGalley to get some pre-publication reviews, and I have never done anything like that. And there are various other sites that do it, and you hear. I think part of the problem is people who are loud about these things online often have had a horror story. So then you think, I won't even think about that because that sounds awful. I don't want to get terrible reviews of my book that's not even published. But that's often just like the squeaky wheel, right? And I kind of want to take a bit of time to review some platforms that I'm not using and think about why, and maybe consider changing some things, and just make sure I'm making more conscious choices.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
I think it's going to be making big lists next week and trying to figure out are the lists useful or not.
Yeah, and I think it will help me look at like some new things. So I have done or been part of a Kickstarter, and it's about do I want to? That's definitely becoming bigger and bigger. Do I want to do anything with that? I've been ignoring TikTok for the most part. Do I want to look at that? Yeah, I think I have had a lot of things where I'm just pushing it to the kicking the can down the road. So this will be a good chance for me to stop doing that and make some choices.
And will tie in nicely if you're going to be looking at a business plan, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, as I am. Because I'm a professional
together.
Business lady. Yes.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I will be looking forward to having a chat to you next week about this and feeling incredibly professional.
Same. Well, thank you very much for this chat, and thank you to everybody who has been listening. And we will see you next week.
Goodbye. Bye.